Hey, everybody, welcome to another segment of Smarterfan podcast, where we bring you behind the veil of sports, business, and life. I'm Joe. This is Barry. How you doing, Barry?
Lots going on, Joe. Knicks,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Prime, NASCAR, Formula One. Oh, a whole lot's going on, Joe.
Oh,
Whole lot.
yeah.
Whole
Oh,
lot.
yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Good to see you, though.
Yeah, I'm still here in North Kakalaki.
Oh, you still in North Kakalaki? Okay, Mr. NASCAR. Okay.
Yeah. I'll be getting on the road tomorrow. So,
Oh, okay. I hear you. You're having a good time.
oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So,
That's
I'm
what's
going to
up.
talk about a gentleman by the name of Larry Gaines.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was born in Toronto in 1900, and he took up boxing at around the age of 20. Now, how he got started was he was asked to be a sparring partner, and then, from there, he boxed out of Toronto's Priastumus Club, which is an organization for black boxers.
Okay.
So now he made his pro debut in London, and he was billed as the Toronto Terror in
Okay.
1923. So now many of his early fights were in France, where he befriended Morley Callahan and Ernest Hemingway, who was they were newspaper reporters at the time. Now he also fought in Germany, where he beat a young boxer by the name of Max Schmeling in 1925.
No way.
Now he won the Canadian heavyweight title in 27, and he defended that title twice. Now, in 30, he moved to Leicester, England, and many of his fights took place there in the next few years. So he moved around a lot. Now, he beat Phil Scott in 31 by a knockout to win the
Hmm.
British Empire title, but because of the color bar, he was not recognized as the champion. So now in 32, he beat South African Donald McCorkindale, and that kind of cemented his role as the champion for the British Empire. But
Hmm.
it was tough going for him, as far as that was concerned. Now he was only the black fighter at that time to fight at the Royal Albert Hall. The first one,
Wow.
yeah, the first one was Len Johnson. So so he defended his title against Primo Carnera before losing it to Len Harvey. Now because he was denied a chance to fight for the world championship, he fought for the world colored heavyweight championship, and he won that twice in 28 and 35.
Hmm.
Now that title was phased out when Lewis won the title in 37. Now, by that year, his income had dwindled to the point where he went bankrupt, you
Oh,
know,
man.
and his last fight was a loss to Jack London in 42.
Hmm.
So now he retired at the age of 40,
Hmm.
and most of his losses came in the latter part of his career,
Yeah.
So now he said that throughout his career, he made about $500,000, you know, and
That's
most
some
of that
money
was
back
lost to
then.
gambling. Yeah. So, and then, he later worked odd jobs. He was a boxing trainer, and his autobiography came out in 76, and it was called The Impossible Dream,
Hmm.
and the foreword was written by Max Schmeling.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So now he died in 83. And he had a record of 118 and 22 with 5 draws and 1 no decision.
That's an incredible record.
Yeah, yeah, and He was inducted into the Canada Sports Hall of Fame in 2015, and he was inducted into the British Boxing Hall of Fame in 2023.
Mm.
So he had quite the career, you know. He died at 82,
Mm.
and so it was just another one of those stories where you had a really good boxer. He was a great contender, but he was denied these chances to really, fight for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, the point you bring up really is a big point that I've had a couple conversations about, that people believe that we as Black people have been part of the sports scene from day one, and we haven't.
Mm.
We only got
Yeah.
into Major League Baseball, quote unquote, on a major stage back in the 40s with Jackie
Mm.
Robinson. Prior to
Mm.
that, we had our own leagues, which was a lot better, but I won't get into that.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
really didn't get into the football seriously in any mark way, in any numbers way, probably to the late 60s, early 70s.
Mm.
But we were
Yeah.
there in sprinkles in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s, but we were barred
Yep.
from it,
Exactly.
and,
Exactly.
so it was baseball, football, basketball. We had sprinklings in the 50s, the biggest sprinkle obviously being Bill Russell. But
Mm.
you really didn't see us show up in any real numbers until the 70s.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you start looking at college sports, it's even later, right?
Mm. Yes. Yes.
So, we haven't, and me in history, this is what these kids need to understand. You haven't been here that long. you,
Yeah.
you really haven't been here that long. It looks
Yeah.
that way now because you kind of grow up as a kid and you see all these athletes that look like you, but it wasn't always like this,
No.
you
No.
know?
No. So.
And so, yeah, man. So I love that history, man. I love when you do those history stuff, that history stuff. I love it. It's great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's going on with Shedeur in Cleveland?
Man, Joe, I am just laughing my head off. All these people want to talk to me, Joe. I don't know how they find me, Joe. Talk to me about shit. But I had an interesting conversation and I said, listen, let me share something with you. The owner of the Cleveland is going to come out of this smelling like a rose. And he says, well, why do you say that? He got a number one for the price of a number five.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. The other part of it is he's probably made more money before day one than probably any owner in the NFL. The guy says, come on, Barry, what are you talking about? I said, let me ask you a question. Who won the national championship? Can't tell me. Michigan. Do you know the quarterback of Michigan? It's like, no. Do you know his draft? Where he got drafted? No. But he's a national champion. I said, can you tell me any other quarterback's name except Cam Ward in the first 3 or 4 rounds that got picked ahead of Shedeur? He's like, no. So if you're an owner and this kid is making all this noise, bringing all these eyeballs,
Mm.
making you money, he's making you a ton of money. So, and he's balling. So what do you think is going to happen if things fall right for Shedeur and let's just say Cleveland has a winning record. Let's just say Cleveland year 2 goes to the playoffs. Let's just say he goes and they go further in the playoffs, and year 4 he ends up really challenging. What do you think is going to happen? That owner has already made $100 million on the Shedeur Sanders as a fifth. As a fifth,
Yeah.
it's all up for him. This is all up.
Yep.
And he's like, I never thought about it. I said, it's all up. I said, do you know how many 1s, 2s, and 3s that get drafted and hug the commissioner don't even make it through camp?
Yep.
Like during the regular season, they're home. They're looking for a job. They're in Canada or they're USFL or wherever because it didn't work out for whatever reason. I said, look at Kenny Pickett. He was a number 1. He's been on 4 teams already.
Mm.
And not saying anything to disparage him, but there's a lot of moving parts to be successful. So
Perfect example is Ryan Leaf.
Ryan Leaf, right? And that debacle, right? So a lot of it has to do with going to a place that you fit, and that's not easy, you know. And I said I'll give you one more thing that is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And he says what? I said Stefanski, and the more success Shedeur has, the more likely Stefanski and that GM is going to be out of there. He says, why do you say that? I said, because they allowed him, the owner had to make the call to them to get Shedeur. It's their job to be, you see what I'm saying? I said, do you understand that? So Stefanski's had 4, 5, 6 years of number ones and hasn't been able to do anything.
Right.
But I'll finish it next week. But what you got going on? I know you got to talk about the NBA now.
Yeah. Those Knicks, they fell short once again.
Oh, Lord.
Halliburton, he was a thorn in their side the whole series. I mean, they couldn't do nothing with him.
Nothing. Not a thing.
This is the Pacers' second straight trip to the conference finals after starting off slow this season.
Yeah.
So in the last game, the Knicks committed 17 turnovers. Not going to win many games like that.
Can't win like that, but let me be quiet.
But what really stung for the old Knicks fans is watching Reggie Miller present the Bob Cousy Trophy to the Pacers owner. I mean,
yeah, that hurt. That's some salt. That's some fire. That hurts. But got to come to play. You got to come to play.
It definitely. Their defense was very inconsistent.
And Halliburton don't need much, man. That guy don't need much.
Nope. So now, Rick Carlisle and Larry Bird, they're the only coaches that brought to take them to the finals so far.
Yeah. I mean, they've been hanging tough together for a long time, since their playing days, and so, this just says a lot. It says a lot. They've been at it together as a team trying to make it happen, and it finally happened.
Yeah. Yes. So now the T-Wolves and the Thunder, that wasn't even a contest. I mean, the Thunder, they just steamrolled them.
Yeah. Well, when you don't have, how I feel about LSS, lazy, stupid, selfish. You just, you're not going to win. I don't know why people don't study history. You can't win 1-on-5.
Nope.
Ant's going to do what the Ant's got to do, but you got to have a defensive and an offensive system.
Oh,
you can't just say go out there and play and you get stuck and give it to Ant. No, it doesn't work that way. You didn't learn that from the first 6 years of Jordan. You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, they basically ran them off the court. They were up by as much as 39 in game 5.
Yeah, if you don't have no system, and if you looked how OKC did Denver, you should have known.
Yeah,
you should have known. Listen, don't come up here and play these guys. These guys is hungry. They young. They coming to get it. And if you slacking, you going home.
Yeah, well, they got outplayed on both ends of the floor.
Both ends. They kicked them in the butt. Go home.
So
this and it made me kind of laugh because Magic said, "Don't talk to me until you win something, Ant."
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. So, what's the Knicks' future? Do you think at this point?
Man, listen. I got 2 points. First, you got to get rid of Thibodeau because I felt like I was watching this whole series was like watching D Rose and Thibodeau in Chicago. I was like, come on, bro. Last year, then this is the best you can do this year. I was like, you got to make a decision. Either Jalen is move Jalen to a 2, but you got to have a true 1 if he can't pass and get everybody involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Him just, what he has, 79 points one game, something crazy like that. I said, well, what do you think the rest of the guys are doing? They're just standing around.
Exactly.
Just standing around. So it was just like, here we go, Thibodeau part 2, D Rose part 2. Here we go. I mean, this is the best you could do. And I mean, they got some ballers on the Knicks. And I love Jed. I love number 11. But moving to a 2 and go get a true 1 who can move the ball around and keep everybody involved in the game. You can't just have him working on both ends. Listen, let me be quiet.
Well, at some point, Bridges has got to show up too.
And that's coaching. That's coaching. That's coaching. And it can't be one person. Halliburton can go off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how we're going to respond? Our response has got to be, well, everybody's got to help and everybody has got to hit the boards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To offset. You got to figure out a way to offset it. You can't trade baskets. You should have known when Halliburton hit that crazy 3.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even flinch. He was just like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. and game point.
Game. Yeah. I mean, didn't even flinch. It popped up in the air and he was like, yeah, it's good. Oh, for sure, it's good.
Yeah. So anyway, but
what do you want me to tell you?
I'm going to switch gears a bit and talk about the Yankees. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, third base is still a question mark for them. Yeah. Because Cabrera went down with a fractured ankle. He might be done for the season.
Yeah.
So that left it to Peraza, who's hitting 165, and DJ, who's hitting 206. So now they're talking about bringing Jazz back to third base from second. So it's shuffleboard all over.
Yeah, either that or bring up somebody or trade for somebody.
Well, this should have been addressed before the season started. They didn't have a true third baseman when the season started. They didn't have a true left fielder when the season started, and Dominguez is still trying to find his way out there. So it's going to be interesting. But I'm pretty sure Jazz is going to go back to third because he's already playing third in the rehab games. So
that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. And, these guys are at 160, the guys you mentioned, they're going to have to, they want to stay, they're going to have to grow. And sometimes that's just the process. You know what I mean? You can't always sometimes they just got to grow into it. And the only way to grow into it is to play. If you don't perform, you go back down. That's the business.
Now, the Mets, Alonso, Lindor, and Soto are finally starting to click.
Yeah.
It's like all three of them homered in the win against Colorado. And this put them back in first place over the Phillies. So now they got a showdown with the Dodgers coming up, a 4-game series.
That should be a good showdown.
Yeah, definitely.
A good showdown.
Definitely. Now, Clay Holmes, he pitched 7 strong innings in that game. I think he found a home with the Mets.
Okay.
He couldn't get it done here because Boone doesn't know how to use his players. It's plain and simple.
Listen, it's real. It's real. You can have talent, but if you don't know how to use it.
Exactly. Now, Pete Alonso moved up to 4th on the list of all-time Mets in the RBI department.
Really? That's saying something. That's saying something.
Yeah, and he's behind David Wright, Strawberry, and Piazza.
Wow.
So we'll just have to see how they keep moving along, and they're playing hitting on all 8 cylinders right now. So
they came close to going to the show. They want to go back and they want to win it.
Yeah.
They want to win it.
They're hungry. They're definitely hungry.
They're hungry.
So, we'll have to see how that plays out. And Major League Baseball is paying tribute to Lou Gehrig. You
They
know,
should.
they had their 5th annual Lou Gehrig Day. You know,
Good.
to raise awareness for ALS. You know,
Yes.
and to raise money for research. Now, if I remember correctly, Catfish Hunter died from that disease.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. Really?
Yes, and so did Dwight Clark.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow. I didn't know that.
yeah. So, all the players, managers, coaches, and umpires are going to wear number 4 in his honor.
Wow.
So,
I never
yeah.
knew that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So,
Interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Wow.
So, the economic engine.
Yeah, sports as an economic engine. I had a very interesting conversation with a Smarterfan podcast fan today.
Mhm.
And, I was just sharing with him how sports is an economic engine. Most people think, and he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, why do you think companies pay as much as they do for Super Bowl ads?
Hmm.
It's the business that buys sport. It's not sport buys business because you have a captive audience. It's a global game, right? I mean, these owners are making $300 million each off the TV contract. That's
Mhm.
off the rip, you know,
Yep.
and that money's just going to go up as the popularity of the game goes up. And
Yep.
I said, look what happened. I thought one of the most fascinating things was what happened with LeBron and Cleveland. Prior to LeBron, no new stadium, no economic impact at all.
Nope.
LeBron comes and they're winning. Oh my goodness. The economic impact on the floor, off the floor, in the community was unbelievable.
Oh
The
yeah.
mayor couldn't do it. The governor couldn't do it. A basketball team did it, right?
Yep.
Then
Yep.
he leaves, right? Then he comes back. Well, he comes back to what? A new stadium that he built, that the owner
Mm.
had enough money to build, right?
Yeah.
Wins a championship. And so the economic engine in Cleveland around that team is huge. And watch this. Imagine one of his sons ends up in Cleveland. The owner
Mm.
will 10x his money again, and maybe 100x if Bryce or Bronny wins a championship there, just because of the legacy of their father. And I said,
Mm.
do you
Yeah.
see how this engine of sports works? And he said, Barry, I never thought about it that way. I said, yeah, that's why you need to keep tuning in the Smart Fan podcast.
That's right. And that's where we'll have to stop.
Hey, that's what we do here. And like we say every week, Joe, what?
Stay in the game.
Stay in the game. See you next week, family. Enjoy.
All right. Take care.
Smarterfan. Smarterfan. Yeah.